If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Your support truly keeps us going. Have you ever looked at your life and wondered when exactly it stopped feeling like yours? That question haunted me one ordinary Thursday morning. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. The same familiar face, the same tired eyes that once held spark, and that same practiced smile that had learned to hide too much. From the outside, my life was the kind people envied. A comfortable home in the quiet suburbs of Seattle. A husband who never forgot an anniversary. 2 bright, beautiful kids who filled our kitchen with laughter. It looked perfect, but inside everything was slowly falling apart in ways that couldn't be seen or named. My name is Rachel Porter, and once upon a time, I truly believed I had life figured out. I did everything right, followed the rules, built a career, nurtured a marriage, raised a family. I checked all the boxes. But somehow, in the process of doing everything right, I stopped feeling real. For years, I thought being dependable meant being happy. That showing up for everyone else was the same as showing up for myself. But the truth? Somewhere between school drop-offs, deadlines, and grocery runs, I had vanished from my own story. I couldn't remember the last time I felt seen, not as a mother or a colleague, but as me. My husband, Ethan, was a good man. A quiet man. Reliable to his core. The kind who noticed a dripping faucet before it became a problem, and who paid the bills before the due date even arrived. We had been married for 12 years, and though the love between us had once burned bright and wild, it now felt like a fading ember, warm but without light. We didn't fight much, but we didn't really talk either. We existed side by side, orbiting one another like 2 planets that had forgotten they shared the same sun. It wasn't anger that ate at me. It was emptiness. Some nights I'd lie awake, listening to Ethan's steady breathing beside me, and wonder if he ever felt it too. That silent ache of being together yet profoundly alone. I never asked. Maybe I was too afraid of what he might say. Or worse, what he wouldn't. Then came Lucas Grant. He joined our marketing team as a freelance designer, confident, calm, with a quiet charm that made people feel instantly at ease. He had the kind of presence that filled a room without trying, and a smile that lingered long after he'd walked away. The first time he spoke to me, it was nothing, a polite comment during a meeting. But something in his voice, something in his gaze unsettled me. It wasn't attraction, not yet. It was recognition. A flicker of aliveness that I hadn't felt in years. A few days later, after a long brainstorming session, he said something that stopped me cold. "You always hold everything together, don't you?" It was such a simple sentence, but it cut through me. Because no one had ever said it like that. Noticed the effort. The weight. The quiet exhaustion behind the smile. And in that moment, I realized how desperately I wanted to be seen. That was the beginning, not of an affair, not yet, but of a spark I couldn't control. At first, I told myself it was harmless. Friendly conversation. Professional respect. But boundaries have a strange way of blurring when attention feels like oxygen. Lucas asked about my favorite books, the music I listened to in college, the places I dreamed of visiting. Questions that had nothing to do with reports or deadlines. Questions that reminded me I still had dreams at all. He listened, really listened, and I didn't realize how much I'd missed that until then. With Ethan, our conversations had become practical updates. Who's picking up the kids? What's for dinner? Did you pay the water bill? We were efficient, responsible, polite. But we weren't us anymore. One evening, when the kids were asleep, I tried to bridge the gap. "Do you ever feel like we're just existing?" I asked. He looked up from his laptop, confused. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," I said, forcing a small laugh. "Just tired, I guess." He smiled, weary. "We're all tired, Rach. That's life." Then he kissed my forehead and went back to typing. That was the night I realized how loneliness can live right beside you and still go unnoticed. The next morning, Lucas stopped by my desk with a coffee. "You look like you could use this," he said. I wanted to tell him not to be kind. That kindness, when you're starving for it, feels dangerously close to temptation. But instead I smiled and said, "You have no idea." It wasn't flirtation. It was connection. And that connection, quiet, fragile, forbidden, began to grow roots. I started noticing the time, waiting for meetings that involved him, checking my messages a little more often, dressing with a little more care. I told myself it was just confidence returning. But deep down, I knew who I was hoping would notice. Ethan noticed too, in his own way. "You've been distracted lately," he said one night over dinner. "Is something going on at work?" I smiled too quickly. "Just a big project." He nodded, satisfied with that. And for reasons I couldn't explain, that simple, blind trust broke me a little inside. A week later, after a long day at the office, Lucas offered me a ride home. The rain was pouring, steady, rhythmic, almost cinematic. The car smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. We talked about everything and nothing: work, music, childhood memories, what it feels like when life starts to feel smaller than it used to. When he pulled up outside my house, I didn't move. The world outside blurred through the rain-slick glass. And in that small, suspended moment, everything felt still. He turned to me and said softly, "You don't have to keep pretending you're okay." My throat tightened, because no one, not even my husband, had said those words in years. I could have left. I should have. But I didn't. When I turned toward him, I saw something in his eyes, something raw and real, something that mirrored my own hunger for meaning. And before I could think, before I could stop myself, I kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't wild. It was quiet. A release. A surrender. The world didn't explode. There was no music swelling in the background. Just the soft sound of rain, and the heartbeat of a woman who had finally crossed a line she could never uncross. When I pulled away, my hands trembled. "We can't," I whispered. "I know," he said. But his voice didn't sound like goodbye. That night, I lay in bed beside Ethan, my body motionless but my mind spinning. The guilt was unbearable. But beneath it, there was something worse. A pulse of life. For the first time in years, I felt awake, and that terrified me. Days turned into weeks. We didn't speak about the kiss. Not directly. But every glance, every silence, carried its ghost. He'd brush past me in the hallway and my breath would catch. A text about work would linger too long before I replied. Everything normal on the surface, and everything broken underneath. The more I tried to suppress it, the stronger it grew. The line between need and guilt blurred until I couldn't tell them apart. I became two versions of myself. The wife, the mother, the colleague, and the woman who came alive in the stolen seconds between what was right and what was real. And I realized then, that's how it always starts. Not with betrayal. Not with lies. But with loneliness that finally finds someone who listens.